Good day, everyone. Welcome to a new update of the markets. I'm Michael van der Poppen, also known as Crypto Michael, and today we're going to discuss some altcoins. But before we are going to continue, I would like to freely ask you to become a subscriber of this channel. Also, check out my Instagram page. Next week, I'll be implementing some live sessions as well when the market is volatile or just some personal interaction with all of you, so you can ask me anything that you want on Instagram. I think it's a cool feature, and we're going to do way more with that platform. Before I'm going to continue, I would love to share the reason why Bitcoin is doing what it's doing, and that is because of this weakness of the dollar. And we have discussed this on the live stream previously. Once the dollar was going to bounce up and reclaim this 92 level, you would be arguably seeing a correction on the markets of Bitcoin. But overall, we see weakness of the dollar, which is suiting the strength of Bitcoin at this point. But still, this is something to watch if this is going to bottom out relatively soon or show some strength, which is not inevitable. Nothing goes down in a straight line. We might be seeing euro dollar going down, and we might be seeing Bitcoin seeing a correction on Bitcoin in general. Bitcoin itself still showing strength. We have been discussing it. Higher time frames, this might arguably be a potential stop structure, or at least a range bound or range construction in which we have a range around 16, a range low around 16k, and we've got a range high around 20k. But what do we see, and that's the point of this episode today, is that Bitcoin is going inside a sideways notion, which means that once Bitcoin is relatively stable, altcoins can have some momentum. And that's what you see across the board right now. Altcoins are popping off left and right, not really in alt season yet, but there is some momentum on the altcoins, which is nice. And which is showing that the markets of altcoins are not dead. So I saw some people replying that. And we're going to discuss some of these altcoins and what their perspectives are, as they were requested on my Twitter. And the first one, undeniably, is EGLD, as it's one of the strongest movers. For this I have to use the other chart, as that is the chart including Elrond, as previously it was known as Elrond and had a long accumulation phase. Now it is EGLD. What do we see? Well, we do see a similar construction as previously, right? We do see that we do see a accumulation phase in which there is a sideways notion, and that is what you want to see on altcoins. What do we see? Lower highs, lower lows, trend is south, and then once the trend is going to be ending, we see a bottoming construction with a bullish divergence, additional tests, and breakout to a trend reversal. This is a beautiful piece of what you want to see on a majority of the altcoins. And in this case, you can also arguably say, so the previous price levels, previous price notions are actually reference points if you want to enter a trade. Run up, first correction goes towards the daily block that we see here, which is similar to the 16k level on Bitcoin. Bounce up, showing weakness, testing support multiple times, another rejection here, breakdown towards this low, rejection of previous support, and fall through towards the next level, another rejection, and now we got towards the previous high, which is holding as support. So if you want to derive any entries on altcoins or in general on charts, use the daily time frame. So what do we see now is that we see this bullish divergence confirming this low here, multiple tests, which marks that we've got a range low in this area. So I do not expect the price of EGLD to go below 650. If we get there again, there would be a massive opportunity, but that's probably also only going to happen if Bitcoin corrects heavily and only going to be a fast wick. In this case, what do we see at this point? We do see that EGLD is inside the first resistance zone, which used to be resistance in the previous period. So the block we do have here is a resistance area. a correction is not unhealthy. So if we get this correction, you want to see the previous resistance zone become support. If that flips, we can arguably say that we get a continuation level here. So this is the main area for entries on EGLD. If this holds, the next target zone is still the area around 14 bucks, and then we get towards the area of 20.5. But I wanted to show EGLD as a construction that generally shows how a bottoming construction on altcoins occur. Then we go towards Coti, which is having a massive correction, full retrace, and which is similar to the one that I'm going to discuss after this. Heavy correction, full correction on the Bitcoin pair, through which we are back into the area of support that we see here. So yeah, this is quite normal on altcoins. First resistance level, which is in general just a range high from this area, and the accumulation phase previously before we broke out is back in resistance area. So we got the range low, range high. If we want to apply the moving averages, we can actually see that this is going to take time. So we got some momentum, most likely we get some more like this. Test of the lows, range lows, accumulation, just like we see in this picture here. And once the moving averages start to come into play, flip for support here, we can start seeing acceleration. And that's why there's seasons in altcoin movements. That's why you see this chart often. There's no bullishness on Coti at this point. It's just accumulation range, which is actually bullish and giving you an opportunity to buy in this token. But this is what you see on the altcoins in general. They are just in, it's just cycles, and currently they are in an accumulation range. The bullishness will appear if we break through to 60 to 320 sets, and at this point we do not. We actually reject it, which shows that we might be getting some further corrective notions in the coming weeks, which is quite similar to one of the coins that I've charted earlier today. As you can see, the moving averages are still quite far away. I do not use those moving averages too often, but in this case it shows why and how cycles start. What do we see? Again, range high resistance at this point, still acting as resistance as we couldn't break through it, which means that we get a copy paste of the momentum here and a copy paste of this. So what we want to see is some more sideways notion, and my mouse stops working. So we want to see some more sideways notion here, so these moving averages start to get into play. Once we break through the range high, we are going to target this range here. So this is just an accumulation phase for Tomo as well. It's similar for Cedar, it's similar for Coti, which means that this is an accumulation and you should be accumulating your bag in general. If we get towards the USDT pair, we can see that there's some strength at this point, right? So we can see that we've tested this range high, so we can actually lock this level, and we see that we're still showing lower highs, lower lows, and at this point you want to break this high if you want to see continuation of bullishness, right? But if Bitcoin is going to reverse, and we just discussed it in the beginning, you want to see this low become support again. So if we get this correction, we get a picture like this in which you get a falling wedge construction, and then you want to step into the altcoins and markets, as then we are going to see a very big breakout. So this is the breaker. If 85 cents breaks, I think we're going to run towards $1.10, and we can see acceleration in the markets. But on this period, it's quite tricky, especially given Bitcoin, and that's why you see those slight momentum on altcoins at this point. Altcoins do have some momentum, but you should be aware of where they are in their perspective. One of those coins that are still following the plan, or is still following the plan, is Ocean. Heavy move up, and as I just discussed the 85 cents area on TomoChain, it's actually the same as the area around 3800 sats on Ocean, which rejected, through which we started to drop down towards the support area, or the first level that I marked here, which is the 2400 sats level. If we get a bounce towards 3000 sats and we reject there, it's very likely that we're going towards 1950, and probably going to bottom out there. But if we do not, 1385 is going to be the next level. So that's why I've got this block here. This is the area that I will be interested in Ocean, and then we get a very boring sideways period for a little while to just confirm the bottom, and then we start a new impulse wave. Trend is still down, so you should be cautious on this one. Then finally, Zilliqa, it's actually showing strength, and but it's still also having a downtrend, right? So if we see this, we can see that we are still making lower highs, lower lows. Crucial breaker at this point is the area around 180 sats. If that fails to break, it's very likely that we're going to continue making this bottoming construction, which I've discussed. Entry point, which is similar to Ocean, right? So entry point here, if that holds, again for the second time, we're going to make an accumulation range here, and then we're going to start a new impulse wave in the next year towards 500 to 600 sats. If the 135 level flips, that would be also an entry zone. But at this point, Zilliqa is not showing an entry point, but it's building up for a really big move. Nice run here. Most likely we're going to see some retest at some point, and that is where you want to enter on Zilliqa. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram and subscribe to this channel, and I'll be back tonight with a new live stream at 8 PM Central European time.